I'm timing myself because I get 10 minutes and that's hard for me. So I'm Mark Pukita. I want to be your next U.S. Senator. I never prepare, like Jennifer was saying, I never prepare speeches like this. I learned back in my business days that the best way to present to people is to be extremely prepared in terms of having knowledge of, in my case in business, my services and my company, and then also the situation of clients, their business. And I think I've got a pretty good idea of what the business of my clients in this role would be, because I've been you. I'm a citizen candidate. I've never run for office before. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a career politician. I never had any desire to do this. And I decided to do it at the end of 2019 because I lived the American dream. And I won't spend a lot of time talking about that, but I came from a lower middle class family. My grandfathers were both coal miners in northeastern Pennsylvania. My parents had outhouses. I know some of you are probably sick and tired of hearing about that. But getting the word out, you have to repeat over and over and over again. In sales, we used to call it, tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. And unfortunately, a lot of you have been told a lot. I came from a lower middle class family, and everybody in the neighborhood was like us. And, Sunday was the center of our week, and we were a faith-based family. My dad passed away a few years ago, the most faithful man I've ever met. Had no problem talking about Jesus Christ with anybody. Yeah, and he did it the right way. He wasn't lecturing or all that. He was sharing, and he was caring. And there's not enough of that in our society today. We want to have people shut us up, or we want to shut other people up. And there is a tremendous lack of care in our society today. I mean, think about this. We have people that would be okay because we're not vaxxed. At least I'm not. It would be okay if I died from COVID. It would be like I deserve it. That's evil. Those people are evil. They've got evil in their heart. There are people that would say, well, you should go bankrupt because if you go into the hospital with COVID, you should have to pay for it yourself. Your insurance, which you pay perhaps thousands of dollars a month for, shouldn't cover COVID because you didn't get the vax. That's evil. There's evil in their hearts and in their souls. And then there are people that say, if you don't take the vax, you should lose your job. And we all know what that means. I mean, it means for some people, you lose your house, you might lose your spouse. And now, who knew it, you could lose your kids. That's evil. And we've got a large portion of our population who think that's okay. That is not okay. And the reason they think it's okay is because they have no God in their life. And the only way we are going to get out of this situation we're in is to add God into our lives. So on the way down here, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about the pastors like Neil who stood up during this COVID thing and said, not in my house. Or what he was probably thinking was not in his house, right? With the capital H. And I've met many, many pastors across the state. I've been to 300 or 400 events. I've lost count. And I particularly like the events that are in churches, and I love talking to pastors. And almost every pastor I know who caved in to Mike DeWine's tyranny regrets it. And then that caused them to do some self-analysis. And they all tell me that they are sorry, especially the older pastors, that they are sorry that they kind of bought this line during the 80s and the 90s, that they should not talk about political topics or issues in society that are political from the pulpit. And if you can't talk about issues like that from the pulpit, where the heck can you talk about them? So I could sit here and talk about policy. I've got a 21-point policy guide. I've got more policy than all my opponents combined. They don't want to talk about it with me because of that. I am fighting the Ohio Republican Party because they're absolutely corrupt. And they don't like the fact that I'm talking about that. They call me divisive. You can't fix problems if you don't admit they exist. I mean, think about the analogy to being a Christian. You can't be forgiven unless you identify your sins and ask God for his forgiveness. So we are so far off the mark in terms of where we used to be as a society. It is stunning to me. And the other thing I was thinking about on the way down, I thought, well, what happens if the candidates that we would like to see win do not win on Tuesday, including me, myself, right? What does that mean? And the only thing that came to my mind as a Christian was, we haven't experienced the suffering long enough to have earned the grace, that there is something that we need to be looking at to determine how we get to that place that we want to be, where we're all living together. We can discuss things without being in tribes and wishing ill will on each other, that we can have righteous anger but not rage, right? I've got righteous anger, so I believe we live in the best country in the world. I believe we live in the best state in the nation, or else we wouldn't be here. We can move. At least for now, we can move. That may change. Think about that. And we've got the greatest political party ever devised by man or woman. And all three of those have been stolen from us by corrupt leadership. How have we allowed people like Joe Biden to lead us? How have we allowed people like Mike DeWine to lead us? How have we allowed people like Bob Paduchik and Dave Johnson in the Ohio Republican Party to lead us? And what is stunning to me is I used to go to church with Bob Paduchik. And he will just stand at the podium and lie. And everybody knows it. It's not even like he's trying to hide it. I don't know how we got here. I mean, I really don't. I pray, I contemplate, I read. I can't figure it out. So we've got to find a way to turn this thing around. And as I said, I think the only way is going to be to get back to our Judeo-Christian roots and get back to the Constitution, which I believe is a God-inspired document. And the other thing we've got to be willing to do, and this is kind of contrary to what Jennifer just said, is we've got to be willing to call out the people in our own party who are not living up to the standards that God has set for us. We've just got to tell them, step aside. I don't want anything bad to happen to Joe Biden. I just want him to go away. Yep. And I don't want anything bad to happen to Mike DeWine. I just want him to go away. And it's the same with Bob Paduchik, and it's the same with Dave Johnson, and it's the same with a lot of people. But part of our problem is 80% of our elected Republican officials are not really Republican, they're not conservative, and they don't live or act as if they've got God in their life. And that's the problem. It's not that hard to see. We have people who don't deserve to be leading us. And we've just got to fix that problem. And I think it's going to start here. I don't know how successful we'll be on Tuesday. I would love to see an absolute clean sweep. Joe Blystone, me, Damon Appel, John Adams, Jonah Schultz. I would love for all these citizen candidates to make it to the general election. But it may not happen. And we cannot give up. We cannot give up. This has to be peaceful, relentless pressure forever because we took our eye off the ball and they took advantage of us. And we've let it go on way too long. And we have just got to be courageous. We've got to be bold. We've got to stand up. And we've just got to speak the truth. And if they don't like it, tough. It's just too bad. But I will tell you that it comes with a price. They will attack you. They will lie about you. They will fabricate. I have seen it all. I knew that I was going to see evil during this campaign. It is 100 times, not 10, 100 times worse than I thought. But we've got to be gentle as the dove or the lamb and wise as a serpent, all at the same time. Those aren't like, well, this hour I'll be wise and this hour I'll be gentle. We've got to do it at the same time. We've got to act godly, and that means we have to have a tremendous amount of discernment. And it is okay to read people and decide you don't want to trust them. You still have to love them, but you do not have to trust them, and you do not have to like them. You've got to clothe them when they're naked. You've got to feed them when they're hungry. You've got to put a roof over their head when they have no shelter. But the commandment doesn't say, like thy neighbor or trust thy neighbor. And I think in terms of the trust, if someone has broken your trust once, we need to have a zero tolerance policy. So I need your vote. I want your vote. I think our state needs your vote for me. Our country needs your vote for me on Tuesday. I'm doing this for us. I'm not doing this for me. Thank you.
All right, give it up for Mark Pukita! Patriot candidate. Love this man so
If you
much.
liked what you have to hear from Mark Pukita in the lobby, I'm sure he wants you to take some of your yard signs. Am I
Dude,
correct,
they got like
Mark?
baseball bats out there and stuff. I was looking at them. I was like, I want
Mark
one of
Pukita's
those.
table has all this stuff on it. It's
Yeah.
absolutely filled with cool stuff. So go get some yard signs, put them in your front yard.
Go get you some stuff. All right.